Hey, good afternoon, my dear friend Dan Gutterz.
Mr. Keller, how are you today?
I'm doing awesome, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm I'm doing okay. Well, tired, but have my wits about me still. So,
Good.
um,
Well, the good news is I can almost always count on you to have your wits about you, so that's a good thing.
yeah.
I'd like to welcome people to the podcast here, the Intentional Living Podcast. Um, as we just introduced ourselves, Marty Keller here, Dan Gutierrez with me, and we've been working in the intentional living process that was taught to us by John Donovan for a long, long time. And we're here to share some of our thoughts, experiences, insights about the process. And our podcast is inspired by something that a young fella said many thousands of years ago, a young fella by the name of Socrates, who said that the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. And that's kind of the way we look at this intentional living process that we're part of. It it necessarily starts us off by uncovering things about our past of which we're unaware, but only to use those as a springboard into creating the world that we would like to live in today. Many of us have found ourselves uh, responding to compulsions inside of ourselves to do things that our minds go, don't do that, or to don't do things that our minds say we better do that. And so we have something that happens to us that causes these compulsions, and we have come to the conclusion, both on a theoretical and practical basis, that this is the result of, for the most part, unhealed trauma that occurred to us when we were little kids and before we had the kinds of consciousness that we have as adults to understand what's going on with us. And one of the things I thought we might talk about today, Dan, is that so much of this recovery work, going back at least to Alcoholics Anonymous, the 1930s, and probably really all the way back to the first time human beings got together around a campfire to do worship, to worship something outside themselves or outside ourselves.
Mhm.
Clearly, specifically, the what we call recovery work, we can do it in two. Actually, there's probably three ways we can do it. Number one is I can do it one on one with a therapist, and I've certainly spent enough hours and money on that kind of activity throughout my life. Secondly, read books and see what I can do on my own, or listen to podcasts or tapes of people talking about this process. Or the third way, and this is the way that I found most valuable for myself, um, is to do this work in a group, three or more people together, sharing our difficulties, our challenges, and opportunities. And in the intentional living process, we do our groups a little bit differently than the 12-step meetings. 12-step meetings are self-directed. They follow rules that have been established years of experience. But each group is autonomous and can set its own rules. And nobody really runs it. It's run by the group itself. In our process, we actually have facilitators who are trained to help us get out of the subconscious mind the truth of what's really going on with us, to identify that truth, and then using what we call the accountability tree process that we've discussed in this podcast many times, uh, create intentions for the life that we want right now and going into the future. So one of the things that is true for you, Dan, is that you actually do this. You run groups as a profession. And so I
Right.
thought it might be of value to ask you to share with particularly the newcomer who might be just thinking about getting into some kind of recovery activity, why the group process is so valuable.
Yeah. Being part of a group is what is what human beings have evolved to do. Um, Being in a group of people that are experiencing the same things, learning the same things, um, even though we're all maybe doing the same thing, we all bring different things to the table. And one of the things I find frequently comes up is that the statement is, we're all from different races, ages, and things, and yet we all have the same problems. We go through the same thing. Another one comes up with is, I'm not alone in this. Prior to coming and being a part of a group, I may have the isolated idea that I'm the only one in the world that's going through it. Nobody understands me. And then and then I find myself in a group, and I get to benefit from other people's experience. I get to hear other people's life story, and I come to understand that I'm not alone. That's a huge thing. That's a huge part of recovery, is understanding that you're not alone. This is not unique to you. And being a part of group allows me to explore at my pace, connection with other human beings. They may model what a safe, healthy connection looks like. I get to see it in action, and allow myself to be more vulnerable, and move out of my comfort zone and start applying the tools. Um, for for me, it's there's no greater power than the power of the group. Um, Being a member of a group allows the person to get that sense of belonging, which is a fundamental human characteristic or human trait or human desire, is to be a part of. Uh, I'm
Well,
accepted.
actually, what you maybe just think is that we were born as part of a group, and which we call the family, and it didn't work well for us, and so it's quite insightful to acknowledge that we are actually formed in groups. We're not formed as individuals. We we learn from our parents. We learn if we have siblings from our siblings, cousins, uncles, aunts. We're 5. We go to school. We start accumulating larger and larger social groups. So we're always in a group. We're always in a series of groups. But that first group that we were in, if we didn't feel safe, if we didn't feel comfortable, we carried the defense against that with us uh, throughout our lives. And I just thought it was really insightful for you to say that when we're in this group and we're looking for that, we're almost like this is what we're trying to recover. We're trying to recover a sense of safety. We're trying to recover a sense of um, confidence in belonging with each other. And what I think is powerful about the group, besides what you said, is it's starting to begin to re-understand that we're in this group, is that we also feel something. Our bodies have a feeling sense when we walk into a room or we enter a Zoom call. For many of us, it might be we might feel scared the first time. I know I certainly did, and I suspect that's probably not an uncommon reaction. Um, but there's group energy that our bodies are all experiencing, not only me or you separately, but among us as a group, we're all experiencing something. And so there's some real power in that, learning to feel safe, learning to feel comfortable, or notice that we don't, and be able to feel safe enough to speak up about it.
Well, it's a biological imperative that human beings connect with each other. Um, you can't. Human beings don't do well without having the ability to connect to other human beings, so they can get some of their needs met. They can be seen, valued, and heard, which in turn calms my nervous system, so my body can feel safe enough to heal itself, get out of fight or flight long enough to actually repair itself, process the nutrients that it has available to it, uh, re-energize the immune system. Um, that's what human beings have been evolutionarily designed to do, is be in groups. We have the ability, we have mirror neurons that when we look at other people, we can sense and feel how they're feeling from a distance. We've developed language to communicate how we feel with each other. We've developed the ability to um, read other people's emotions on their face as a way to either connect or maintain distance. All these things are designed because we're social animals. The worst things that you can do to a social animal is put it into isolation. And that's what the trauma, that's what dysfunction creates, is a disconnection from myself, and hence I disconnect from others. Um, our emotions are designed so we can that if the relationship between me and my emotions allows me to connect to myself, and as a whole, my emotions or other people's emotions are designed so I can connect with other human beings, right? That's why we have the ability to read each other if it's safe, if the person's open to being approached, if somebody's shut down, we can read their body language. We're designed to be able to read these things, to have these cues, social cues of safety or cues of threat, so we can either move toward or stand our ground. And that's why being part of a group, that's what it also teaches. You can learn, well, as they say, in a group, you can learn on the job in a safe environment where it's okay for you to be who you are and still have certain characteristics. People accept you. What the group does, it supports me to be able to connect with myself. If the group accepts me for who I am, they show me what acceptance and love and connection is. So if I don't know what it is, somebody else or the group has the capacity to show me what that looks like, so I can learn from other human beings what it is to be connected, what it is to be seen, what it is to love myself. If I have a group of people that accept me unconditionally and I don't accept myself, well, then I learn from the group what unconditional acceptance is. They model it for me. If I don't know, they model it.
One of the fundamentals of the group process is that there are a handful of fundamental, sometimes spoken, sometimes unspoken agreements about how we're going to be in the group. Could you speak to that, particularly for the person who's hesitating about getting into a group, because the experience that you're talking about comes because the group's made some agreements about how we're going to be with each other.
Right. For a lot of the some of the groups that I work with, I read a script. And it gives you some guidelines to follow. When offering, trying to communicate with somebody else, we always ask permission. And yes, no, or maybe are always good answers. And if somebody says no, we don't talk, or we can't offer somebody something, we don't. So that shows that we're all equal. And by asking permission, if I can give you some feedback per se, and you say no, when I honor that, that creates safety in the group, right? I stay away from judgments and opinions and contesting questions, because those things are family of origin, being judged, being told I'm not good enough, this is what you should be doing, and so on, doesn't create the safety. For me, being in a group, the glue that holds it all together and makes it happen is that we have a safe and trusting environment to allow the healing to take place, to allow vulnerability to take place. One of the rules is confidentiality. We don't talk about what happens in the group because it stays in the group. So, you know, that's how we honor the space. What's shared here stays here. We don't talk about it to other people outside the group or other people in our other groups. That's how we create safety. And this is the power of the group. The group can hold the space for someone who's going through something, and that person can learn that it's okay for them to be agitated, be annoyed, and the group can hold space for them, and nobody abandons them. Nobody tells them that they're doing something wrong. So they can learn they can be themselves in the presence of others. This is the group can become the loving parent. You know, the loving parent models what connection can be. The group does the same thing. It's the power of the group. It's an energy. And you can't, you are traumatized in the presence of other human beings. The flip side of that is you also heal in the presence of human beings. And that's the power of the group. And then if depending on the size of the group, you've got, say there's 10 people in the group, you have 10 people there who have 10 different life experiences which they can bring to the group and share. So instead of just having my one life experience and trying to learn on my own, which is very difficult because I require somebody outside of myself or a group who doesn't have the same conditioning and the same subconscious barriers to my growth that I do. I need somebody who doesn't have those built-in safeguards to keep me stuck. So if I'm in a group of people, they can see what I can't. And in a safe environment, given the permission, if I'm asking for help, somebody can maybe offer me what I can't see. And I will never see because it's designed, because I'm looking from the inside out. I can't necessarily see certain things, but people who are around me look from the outside in and they can see things that I can't. And if like I said, I've tried to do this alone. I mean, that's how I started. It's like, yeah, I can figure this out. You know, I'm all this, and it's like, oh yeah. And then it's like, well, yeah, I had a hard time with connecting with people because I have a list of why I can't connect to people, right? Only child, I don't play well with others. People are dumb, you know, I'm smarter than they are. You know, all describing that I'm uncomfortable being with people because I can't trust them because the people who are supposed to love me and had the best intentions for me, they're the ones who hurt me. They're the ones that created a lot of the dysfunction in my life. So don't trust people. What's the worst thing you can do to a human being is put them in isolation. And here, my solution is I put myself in isolation. And that's not what I'm not designed to be that way. I'm going against Mother Nature.
You know, it's ironic because that is almost universally the response to unhealed trauma is to be in isolation in some way or another. And part of the instinct to isolation is to assume that if I'm in isolation, I have more control over my circumstances and myself, and I can't trust you or others to have my best interests at heart. Therefore, I've got to stay isolated, even if like for me in my experience, I was unaware that I had that addiction to isolation. I thought I was friendly and had a lot of friends and everybody liked me and all those wonderful attributes. Um, but I didn't realize that the truth was people could only get so close and then they couldn't get any closer, and that I had an invisible defense barrier that people tended not to challenge. But when I got into a group, the group helped me see where that invisible defense barrier was, because the group members of the group didn't want to be held back. They wanted they wanted to learn to they wanted to know me, just like I wanted to know them. And the truth is, I could see when other people were fending people off, but I had no idea that I was doing that. So
Absolutely.
one of the values to me in the group, and I was in one group that I learned that really the hard way. Um, I, but it was, I've shared it on another podcast with John, where I violated the group's confidentiality rule, and the group came down on me like a ton of bricks. And it was in that process that I realized that, and one of the things they did is they told me how they thought I was being phony. I was wearing a mask. I refused to take it off. And the irony is, I felt at one point as I was listening to this round of indictment, there were 12 people in the group, and everybody got a lick in, and I'm sitting there, I'm a puddle of tears, and I'm like, I can't. I don't know what I said. I said I can't do this anymore or something like that. And one guy said, "Now that's the Marty we want to know." And that moment was so shocking, but so healing, because in that moment I was able to see, the group helped me see that I had been working overtime to keep up a facade, and that keeping up that facade was so exhausting. But I was completely unaware of it because it seemed natural. No one had ever challenged me on it before, and I was oblivious to the effects and the impacts it was having on myself, much less on other people. Do you have an experience in the group that you could share with people to help people get a sense of the power of the group, or
Well,
either as a participant or as a facilitator?
for me, the power of the group is that my limitation and my fears aren't theirs. So it's it's like one of the Star Wars things. It's like your fears and trauma are not mine, so therefore I don't have to react like you. I don't have to run from your trauma. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I know it's not about me, so I can hold space for you while you move through your stuff and learn from it.
So
That's the power of the group.
you're speaking as a participant in a group watching someone else go through a process.
Right. It's like
In this case.
that's the power of it. That's what I was saying earlier, that we can hold space for each other to allow somebody to grow and, uh, be in denial, blame others, minimize their portion of it. And, and we can just sit there and it's just like, yeah, okay, I can see minimizing, blame, denial. Okay. And, you can do your best to push me away, but I know it's not about me, so I can hold space for you and let you experience what you you're asking to experience by being in the group in a safe manner so you can move through it. But if I'm by myself, I can't do that, because as soon as I get too close, I'm out of there. I know how to not I know how not to heal. I know how to maintain and sustain my fears. So if I don't have somebody there who's not doesn't believe my bullshit, And it's like, these aren't the droids you're looking for. This isn't, I don't, yeah, exactly. What, who you are right now, I don't see that. Try again, you know? Or it's like you can be the facilitator in the group and know somebody can rant and rave and attack you and so on and so forth. As and being a part of the group, I know it's not about me, but if I hold space, I create the opportunity to heal, and I can't do that alone because I never have anybody challenge me.
Right, exactly. That was the experience I was speaking to for me, and that the group I was talking about.
I mean, not challenge you in a way, but
Well, it almost always feels like a challenge initially because we're so busy, we're so used to defending
right,
that anything that comes at my defense feels like a challenge initially. Again, the power of the group is that the group will love us through our reactions to these quote challenges end quote. The group will love us through the struggles that we have to tell a truth that we've been hiding because we're ashamed of it for years and years. And because ultimately the fundamental power of the group is that it represents unconditional love, as you said, and
right,
that's all every human being wants. It's all I really want is just want to be loved and accepted for who I am. And the group
right.
is one of the first places for those who are in recovery to actually authentically experience that. And sometimes it takes a long time for us to let our guard down. It took me 11 months. I was going to an adult children of alcoholics ACA meeting back in my late 30s. And I just sat there it was a weekly meeting, and I sat there for 11 months and never said a word. And I hated it most of the time I was there until something happened. After 11 months, there was something melted, and my resistance or I don't know, something changed, and I no longer felt a part of the group, apart from the group. I felt a part of the group.
Yeah,
And for those of you that are considering getting into any kind of recovery group, whether it's an AA or NA, Narcotics Anonymous, OA, Overeaters Anonymous, any of the 12-step groups, or you'd like to join our group, our work, the group is going to love you as it did me, as it did you, Dan, um, through the most difficult times, which are all about letting go of these defenses and asking for help. That's the other thing that addiction to isolation prevented me from doing is asking people to help me, especially with the fundamentally difficult things, the things that, like you said, I can handle this on my own,
yeah,
that I was
exactly.
stuck with. The group is actually turns out to be an incredible and very deep resource because, like you said, everyone's there with his or her own individual experience, and every person's a universe. And so you have a dozen universes in that room, all of them willing and desirous of sharing their experience with those of us who ask for what they might have to share. So, as we're coming to the end of our time together, any last thoughts on the power of group and why we invite people to come to the group meetings?
Um, you, I'm going to go out on a limb and say here, healing requires um, group uh, participation. The group is also a practice, a safe crucible to practice in. It's also a safe container to heal in. Um, and we cannot heal without some kind of connection with another human being. And trying to go it alone, um, that's a handicap. Being a part of a group, we learn how to love and accept each other, love and how to accept ourselves, to be vulnerable, to be who we are, and the group can show us what it's like to accept ourselves for who we are, so we can grow. They're a group of human beings is the I don't know, it's the glue that brings ourselves back together, reunites ourselves. The trauma separates us from ourselves, and the group is part of the glue that allows us to recombine ourselves, reunify ourselves, and show us that it's okay to be us, in spite of who we think we are.
I really love what you said about it's really a place to practice because we're, like I said earlier, we're all in a whole different number of groups. We're in a work group, we might be in a church group, we're certainly in a family group, we're a group of friends, we may participate in a hobby with a group of people. So when I'm in my recovery group, I can practice the best ways to be in a group, to learn to be honest, learn to be authentic with other people as well as myself. So it's like almost like this great laboratory where it's safe to practice. It's safe to make mistakes. It's not about right or wrong. It's just about learning what works. And so um, I'd like to wrap this up by inviting anybody who would like to participate in our intentional living groups to join us. We have 4 meetings a week. They're all on Zoom, so wherever you are in the country or the world, you're welcome to join us. The information on times and the Zoom addresses will be at the end of the podcast, so stay tuned for that. And come and learn about this process. And we'd love to see you. So, Dan, thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to the next one.
Thanks, Marty. I appreciate being here.
Yeah, fun stuff. See you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.